joined the Death March survivors in prison camps like O'Donnell. Each water spigot was shared by 1,500 men. Each fish head by 10. Any rat they could catch was a meal for 20. And if they got sick, they died. Some just gave up and died.
You will bow to every Japanese soldier, private or officer. You will bow and salute him. This was the way we were greeted.
Manny Lawton, who had hoped the Geneva Convention on the treatment of prisoners would be obeyed, learned immediately that it would not be. The Japanese refused to recognize the Western concept of honorable surrender.
We had to stand for at least an hour while a little squatty Japanese sat up on a platform there and shouted at us and told us that we were not prisoners of war, that we were captives. He degraded us as saying that the Japanese soldier never surrendered.
And he let us know that we were at the bottom of the totem pole in this world, that we were nothing. There was no medicine. We had our doctors, but they didn't have any medicine for us. And they designated one building as a hospital, but they only put them there to die. When I got within 100 yards of that place, I could smell it. I could smell the filth, and I could smell the death.
If you got sick and you were sent into the hospital, they didn't increase your food or give you medicine to build you back up where you could go back to work. They cut your rations. So you fought not to get into the hospital. And many times I've gone out on work details with a temperature of 106 or higher, because I knew that if I went into the hospital, I would die.
You know, dying to some of these people was just, you know, boy, getting out of this. It was a way of getting out.
During the first few weeks at O'Donnell, 50 American prisoners died every day. So did 500 Filipinos.
Survival is a hell of a thing in a man, and everybody wants to survive. And that's the point that I was always thinking about. If there was one son of a bitch that was going to come out of this thing, it was going to be me.
You had to fight with every fiber, every minute, every hour, every day, to struggle to stay alive.
Staying alive meant getting more food, buy it, trade or gamble for it, steal it from the Japanese, or, when all else failed, from each other. Not all you wanted, just enough to live. 4 months after they were captured, the Filipinos were released. 27,000 had died at Camp O'Donnell. By the end of 1942, 5,000 Americans had died in Philippine prison camps. For some, the best chance to survive seemed to be escape. But that meant others would die. Prisoners watched each other because, for everyone who escaped, the Japanese executed 10 who remained behind. Joseph Baxter escaped, fought with the guerrillas, and was recaptured. Under Japanese rules, he should have been beheaded, but the Japanese thought he had secret information. He was put in a dungeon in Manila and tortured.
I lost all track of time. Never knowing when they would pull me out of the cell, I could always hear the screams of torture from the other prisoners who were brought to the interrogation rooms. We would often pray that we would maybe stay in for 3 or 4 days without being called out, and I remember that I would pray that maybe they had forgotten me, and I could lay there and die in peace.
The Japanese had heard the rumor that a secret tunnel connected the Bataan Peninsula and Corregidor Island. They were convinced that Baxter could tell them about it. He couldn't. It didn't exist. They refused to believe that.
They grabbed my hair and pulled my shoulders back and head back, and the Japanese officer took his cigarette and jammed it into my left eyeball, rolling the cigarette around until it fell into pieces. The excruciating pain forced me to my feet, and I broke free. This was the last I remember, because they beat me into unconsciousness. Many days later after that, I was laying on the floor, and an American officer, a doctor, was working on my eye with some kind of solution. And the pain brought me to, and he said, "Soldier, be still. I'm wiping the maggots from your eye."
In 1944, General Wainwright was shipped to Manchuria. He had been beaten and humiliated, but what depressed him most was his belief that he would someday be court-martialed because he had surrendered. In the Philippines, his men worried about survival and wondered what was going on.
I'd been a prisoner over 2 years. And at the time in the Philippines, it was like there was no tomorrow. It was almost the point of giving up. You know, we hadn't heard anything in 2 years. We didn't know anything other than rumors.
August 1944. American bombers hit the Philippines for the first time. It was a fact, not a rumor. With naval guns and General MacArthur pounding at the door, the Japanese sent the prisoners to Japan, slaves of the Japanese war effort. Manny Lawton and Lloyd Mills waited on a sun-baked pier for hours. Then, with 1,600 others, they were packed in the holds of the Oryoku Maru. December 13, 1944, the ship sails.
It was stifling for lack of air, and it was hot. The fellows who drank up their water immediately started yelling for water. Water, we want water. And the interpreter, Mr. Water, said, "Shut up. If you don't shut up, I will close the hatches and we don't have no water. You'll get no water."
I was trying to control my little canteen of water, and I was even afraid to take a sup out of it, afraid somebody would jump me.
People began to go mad from thirst and from panic.
They were killing each other for want of water, trying to steal other canteens of water that men had. And some of them went so far as to drink urine. It was almost indescribable to discuss how a person can turn into an animal, forget that he's a human, actually. That we were nothing but animals, trying to survive, trying to get water to live.
And they became vampires, trying to cut their companions and drink their blood. Now this happened. It happened to a friend of mine. I noticed that his arms were slashed, both arms, not deep cuts, but with cuts. And I said, "Al, what's happened to you?" And he said, "Well, last night, one of those crazy fellas was trying to cut my arms to drink my blood, and said I fought him off for some time, maybe an hour, and then two fellas next to me realized what was going on, and one of them grabbed him and held him, and the other took his canteen and beat him to death." And he said, "That's what saved me."
The next morning they did open the hatches, and some of the people started up and they were shot by the Japanese. They were completely mad. They wanted to get out of the hole.
The prison ships, and there were several of them, were not marked. So to an American submarine, they looked like Japanese freighters. About 5,000 American prisoners died in these attacks.
And the next morning, our Navy found us again, our airplanes. They bombed this convoy. There were several ships in the convoy, and they got the other ships, and then they started on us.
The first thing that I thought, my God, hit us. I wanted them to hit us. I wanted to end it right then. I said, I was saying to myself, hit us. Let's get this thing over with.
A bomb made a direct hit. It killed about 100 to 150 people.
Still near the Philippines, the Japanese abandoned the Oryoku Maru. Prisoners were ordered to swim the 300 yards to shore.
I know we spent Christmas Day on the shore at Lingayen Gulf, hungry, thirsty, discouraged, and just a desolate thing. And you knew that you were going to be sent to Japan. You knew there was no turning back now.
We were issued one rice ball per man. That was our Christmas dinner. And the next morning, we were loaded up on what had been a horse boat or a cattle boat.
And we got then to Formosa. And after several days, we heard a plane coming.
And we were hit by our own planes.
Shrapnel flying. Half of our number dead.
Then it was worse, really, than the Oryoku Maru. You'd look around and there would be somebody standing there minus a head, or sitting there, I'm sorry, minus a head. Others screaming minus a leg or an arm. No medicine, begging for you to do something and help them, and there was nothing you could do. But to stay down there, we were just lost all sense of comprehending anything. Actually, we're there with all these dead bodies, no food, no water, nothing, for 3 days. And we were then transferred to a third ship. About 800 of us left out of the 1,600.
On their third ship, the prisoners who had survived the first two got 2 teaspoons of water and an ounce of rice each day. That was better. The weather was worse.
Very shortly, we were in cold waters, and before long, we ran into snow, and the deck got iced over, and it was freezing cold in there. Then pneumonia set in after we got to colder climate approaching Japan. We began burying 25 a day over the side. We left Manila with 1,618 prisoners, and we finally got to Japan 45 days later with something less than 400, I think about 375.
I was hardly able to move by that time, and for the first time in all the years, I began to lose my sense of optimistic outlook, and I felt, well, you're just not going to make it, Lord. This is going to be it. But by the time I got that feeling, we landed in Moji, and I couldn't walk off the ship. We had some Australians there working on the dock, and one of them carried me off the ship. I'll never forget, they were very friendly and so husky. To me, it looked like a giant, because I only weighed 80 pounds, so he could just pick me up and like I was a baby. And they put me in it. I didn't know it at the time, but they put me in the death barracks.